Hi, this is Krista Moore, and welcome to my show. This show is brought to you as a new way to learn from industry experts and thought leaders as they share their growth ideas, their success stories, all about wellness, health, and business success. And today, my guest, I'm so excited for you to meet. He's a good friend of mine, someone that I admire significantly, and he's just full of life and love and encouragement. And because of that, I want you to meet him. I think we could all use a little bit more of that these days. So let me go ahead and introduce to you Butch, AKA Rufus Stephens, author, motivational speaker. Hi.
Hi, Krista. Oh, Christy, how are you?
Good. And we do have this thing, just so our audience knows, I call you Butch, you call me Christy.
That's right. That's right.
And why don't you go ahead and begin by introducing yourself a little bit more to the audience. Give them a little bit about your background and who Rufus is.
Well, I am currently a motivational speaker, retired food service executive from 2014. But I was raised, and most of that happened in Illinois, right outside of Chicago. But I was raised in Savannah, Georgia, and so that's where all of my roots are. And we just 3 years ago relocated into the Raleigh-Durham area. And then I began motivational speaking in earnest, and that's how I came across you. I was telling some friends not too long ago, I was raised in a family of 5 kids, single mom, and I used to say it was a broken home, but nothing was broken in that home when I look at it. In fact, to the contrary, it was very much together. And a couple of friends, the people that I dedicate the book to, heard a little bit about my mother, who is affectionately known as Miss Mattie. And they kept telling me, I want to hear more about Miss Mattie. And so I decided to write a book about at least 8 of the lessons for life that she taught us, me and my siblings, and that's what the book is about. I intentionally wrote it as a easy read, 67 pages, so people could consume all of it. And so that's where we are right now, and I'm really excited about it.
And I have it right here, and it is an easy read, and I enjoyed reading it one morning, you know, kind of my daily reading that day, and right. I absolutely loved it. And I just want to congratulate you because you're an awesome writer. I mean,
thank you very much.
Colorful words in here, and that was one of your lessons that you learned from your mom.
I was about to say, charge it to Miss Mattie.
That's right. Well, when I first met you, I want to go back to then. I think it was probably 3 years ago, and somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And I attended a speaking engagement where you were one of the motivational speakers. And I was so drawn into your message. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, you know, I gotta meet this guy. I'm here for a purpose or a reason. He needs to be in my life. I just love this guy. So I don't know where that all came from, but I remember, I just remember looking at you in the eye and thinking, you were really special.
Well, thank you.
One of the things that I was so captivated by were your stories.
I remember that day, and to this day.
One of the things that I was so about your stories. Can you hear me okay?
I think we're having a little technical.
Yeah,
I can see you okay, but I couldn't hear you very well.
Okay, I can hear you now and I can see you okay. So let's try that again.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was saying I remember that day, and I told you before, I don't believe in coincidences. That was providence. We were meant to cross paths, and so many other things happened at that. It was rather a lackluster event, if I can say that, but there were bigger things to happen, and one of them was that I was to meet you. So I'm eternally grateful for that.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, and I'm glad this is the second time you've been a guest because I enjoyed it so much 2 years ago. But I wanted to hear more about Miss Mattie. And you and I share a common interest and love for reflecting back to when we were younger and looking at who we were, maybe before the world told us who we needed to be, and looking at the influences that our parents or our environment had on who we are today. And that's what I got out of your book. And I would just love for you to maybe share first off, what did you learn about yourself after you wrote this book?
Well, you live in situations and you take them for granted. First of all, and I mentioned it in the book, it was only when I started to seriously focus in on, we call her mother, on mother, that I realized how awesome, how incredible of a woman she was. When my twin brother and I were 3 and my oldest brother was 8, there are 5 of us, they separated. And my father was an alcoholic, and he was a nice guy, but he wasn't a provider. And so they split, and so there we are, fatherless. Coincidentally, she desperately loved my father, and but she didn't love him to the point of sacrificing what her kids needed. And so she just went to work. She was a teacher, taught all over Georgia, did side jobs, whatever it took. And all of us saw that. In fact, just anything about it, we had to work just like many kids. We had to work early on, and we were going to have any extra money, and just basic ethics were there. You will not lie, cheat, or steal. You will do it honestly, or you'll not do it at all. And all those things were kind of drummed into us. And corporal punishment was something that was there with regularity. And so we're the better for it. We are, and that's where we are today.
Yeah. One thing that I learned right away in the book is the influence on character building that our environment and our parents have for us, right? And a couple of things I wrote down because I was kind of journaling while I was reading it. I love the book so much. She represented possibility. I love that. Like for the 5 children, you were seeing her and her work ethic and how she loved her family and how she loved her faith and how she loved her children, but she loved everybody's children. She was a wonderful educator and teacher. Children. But that character part, and teacher. But that character part, we have a delay. But I heard cross hell
I think we have
on a spider for her children.
That was an old Baptist preacher expression, and he was talking about something else, but it aptly described my mother. The expression is that you would cross hell on a spider web, the heat of hell on the sheerness of a spider web to get to where you need to get. And that was the nature of my mother. There was nothing would stop her from taking care of her kids, whether it was high interest loans, whether it was borrowing a car or cleaning offices at night. There was simply nothing that would stop her.
And then how did that impact your life?
It made me very independent. In fact, when I got older, I didn't want her to pay for college. I paid for my own college or either got loans because, she did so much. And it just taught me to be rather independent. Some people would say to a fault, but I don't, there's no whining allowed. You just, if it's hard, then you just do it hard. And that's what got drummed into me.
When I think about the different messages that we hear from our parents when we're younger, they kind of stay in our head. It's like a constant song.
Mm-hmm.
I tell the story all the time about how my dad would say, "You're a Schaefer. You can do anything, because you're a Schaefer." And that was my last name.
Uh-huh.
And had I not had that influence, I might not have that attitude today. And I think that that's something that I really learned from your book, is the impact that we can have in our language as we're raising kids or as we're being a leader in our business. What a difference our language and how we treat others, how that can impact how they then, behave or learn or grow. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you said that, you reminded me that whenever we left the house, we didn't leave the house alone. We took the family name with us. And so you just didn't do anything in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a situation where, those of you who are old enough to remember the Ed Sullivan Show, one Sunday night, we got a phone call. Now, we were all in the house in front of the TV watching Ed Sullivan Show. But somebody called and said that they thought they saw me and my twin on a road grader. They were doing some construction work up the street. They thought they saw us on this tractor monkeying around. And I was so glad that I was home, because had I not been home, it would have been hard to explain that it wasn't me, and I would have embarrassed the family, and not a good thing. So yeah, I don't leave. We never. In fact, I used to tell my daughters growing up. I said, remember your last name, because you don't leave home alone.
Mm-hmm. That's something else. And you don't want to see them on the front of the newspaper. That's what they always told me.
That's right. That's right.
In front of the newspaper in a small town that I grew up in as well. One of the things that you shared in your book about one of the lessons that helped you discover your why, like why you exist, why you are who you are, and why you want to be a motivational speaker. And when I read that chapter about encouragement, I thought, that's who he is. He's full of encouragement. So I'd like you to talk about that lesson a little bit for us and how that impacted who you are today.
Well, people used to come to me all the time and just kind of dump stuff on it. And if you know me, I'm fairly private. They dump stuff on me that I would never dump on anybody else. But they trusted me, and they expected to get something back from me of value. And so that just happened. And then I started getting intentional about it. I remember the first few times I actually started to say something nice to somebody about something, or congratulate them, and they didn't realize how great they were. And I'd watch them light up. And I mean, all this happened in a matter of seconds. So then I started making my life work. It became very easy to me, and people would come back 2 years ago and say, you told me blah, 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 and I really appreciate that. And then I started looking at myself saying, you know what, I believe that's why at least one of the reasons why you're here. And so I just do that. I encourage them. My daughter, in the Bible, there's a man named Barnabas. His name means encourager. So my daughter Connie has named me her Barnabas.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So it comes very natural.
Well, that word just really emulates you. When I saw you speak, and then I had you at a conference, was it last year in San Diego?
San Diego last year, right?
And you got a standing ovation because people felt that encouragement. And you have a signature topic called 50 Now What?
Right.
And I'd like you just to talk a little bit about that to the group, and what message are you trying to get out to your audience when you talk about that, because there are lots of encouraging words there.
Well, the one that's 50 Now What, it really is targeted toward people who are 50 and older and have a tendency to write themselves off because what they had hoped to accomplish by then had not happened. And so they want to write themselves off. And the irony of it is that they've never been that smart or wise or skillful before. And it's the worst time in the world to write yourself off, and the best time in the world to charge ahead. And so I challenge them to appreciate who they are. And then I take the 50 off in some of my messages and just talk about now what? That we are so wonderfully engineered and equipped for greatness. Now what? And just because change has come into your life, that's not the end of it. In fact, I would argue that change might be an ally if you let it, and bring you to a better point than you would otherwise be. So that's what's behind that now what? It's, challenging people to move forward and not let change or age cause them to be stuck.
Well, and I think it's a really strong message for today. There's a lot of change taking place in the world, and we wonder if there's ever going to be kind of the new normal again. And people are looking for inspiration and hope and encouragement. And I'd like to encourage and inspire others to take that personal time and do that reflection and then live with more intention. You have a chapter in your book about living with intention. And that was a lesson that you learned from Miss Mattie. And I wanted you to talk about that. What do you mean by living with intention?
You know what? Just don't let life just happen. I mean, be very intentional about what you're going to do. Decide that. I think it requires, in order to live intentionally, it requires you to become rather introspective. You got to look inside of you. You got to ask the hard questions. Not write yourself off in terms of what your desires are because you don't think you have enough money, or you don't have enough, you're not old enough, or whatever, all the excuses we give ourselves for not doing it. And just decide, this is what I'm going to do. Get the help you need, whatever. And if it's hard, just do it hard. But I mean, decide intentionally that this is what I'm going to do.
And I want to read something that was in that lesson, because you have a quote from Maya Angelou, and I have the same quote on my wall in my office. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
That's right. That's right. I get so much feedback from people, and they don't say that, verbatim, but they express it in such a way that something I said made them feel such a way that it prompted something else. I remember speaking to a small group at a senior living center, and the director of that center said, as a result of hearing you all today, I've decided to go back to college. Something inside of something that we said, that I said, stirred her, caused her to feel that way. And most of the current signature speeches, I challenge people to dance, and dance is a euphemism for maxing out on life and living life well. And I just believe you don't have a chance. You've been given this wonderful thing called life. Shame on you if you don't dance.
Yeah. Well, and I see life living through you. And there's a lot of people that are waiting for life to happen. And when I read about your lesson of intention, it made me think about the impact that our words and our life intention can have on others. I mean, we're here to serve. And what can we give back to others that is our gift, that it's our responsibility to live out intentionally? That's kind of how I read into that. And it made me think about my actions or my words and what an impact they can have on others.
Well, I think I referred to in the book, and I just came to this conclusion, living a life, that life is really all about touch points.
Yes.
And so, and they come, and sometimes they're huge touch points, other times they're small ones. I remember a simple thing, like I was checking out with a checker, and the checker had on a beautiful diamond ring. And I mean, it was catching all of the light. It was absolutely beautiful. And I remember telling her, I said, that's an absolutely gorgeous ring. And she lit up like a 12-year-old girl. And I know after I left, she kept looking at it. And I tell people, I said, what did that cost me? Nothing. I know I changed her paradigm for just nothing but more than a minute. I touched her life, and it cost me nothing. And I think we just walk by opportunities like that every single day. So that's part of my intentionality. I'm going to, if you give me long enough, I'll have you grinning about the stuff that I say about you that's so good.
Well, it kind of goes alongside with encouragement too. We can think of people, and you even refer to it in the book, just close your eyes for 15 seconds and think about who left an impact on you and what they said and how that felt, and why, when you close your eyes, they're the people that you're thinking about, and they might not even know it, right? I was just recalling, I was going for a walk the other day. Eddie and I were walking around the neighborhood, and there was this young family going for a walk, and the little boy was on a scooter, and the little girl had like skates on, and they're all getting some exercise and enjoying the day. And when I walked by the little girl, I just looked at her, and we were, distancing, but I said, "You're doing a great job. You're really good at that." And you should have seen her face. I mean,
That's
she
what I'm
just,
talking about.
I mean, I made her day. And if that's all that it took, and she's remembers that she is good and
Yeah.
she is great at that, those little words of encouragement, like you said, they don't cost anything. But those are the things that we can be doing to, maybe to have an impact on others' lives. But gosh, let's be present in the moment, live life, and realize what comes out of our mouth and how people interpret that can really make a difference in how they feel and how they just live.
I mean, the the good book said there's power in the tongue, and there really is. And I mean, you can change a situation for better or worse on how you navigate with your tongue. And I just opt for the upside.
And
And I,
you talk in your book a lot about faith, and I appreciated that, and
Mhm.
the impact that it was your grandfather who was a Baptist minister, and the impact that that had on you as a young child. And I really resonated with that, because I remember at the same age being influenced by church and faith and family. And I wonder, those that don't have those childhood experiences or get introduced to that, what a difference that could make in how someone really views the world or handles tragedy. Or, I mean, faith is so important to you.
it
Tell me
really is.
about that.
It really is. And it's not about church going, though we are avid churchgoers, but faith it's a personal relationship for me as a Christian. It's a personal relationship with Christ. And I've staked my eternity on that. And so I do things that perhaps I otherwise would not do. And my wife passed away in June of '95, and 60 days later, my mother passed away. And I tell everybody I'm a mama's boy. And it was nothing but my faith and the family and friends I had to help keep me together. Um, at first, when early on, it was my grandmother's religion, it was my mother's religion, my grandfather's religion. But as I grew up and embraced Christ for myself, it was all about my faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about that hardship and that tragedy that you experienced, we're referring to our journeys in life and going back to when we were younger and remembering. But nobody's had a perfect childhood. Nobody's
Correct.
had the ideal living situation. And when you look at how you were raised, single family, in a community where you were raised as a Black family, and I think that it was at a time and a season when you saw hardships from that
Oh,
and
yeah,
discrimination from that.
big
And
time.
it's more how you overcome and how you kind of come out of those situations that make a difference. Because I'll hear people say,
Really
well,
is.
I didn't have such a good 10-year-old self. I don't really want to talk about that. It's not about what happened. It's more about how you overcame and what you learned.
Well, we uh, all of us, when we look on our house, uh, I wrote in a book about the 1016 triad. 1016 was our address.
Mhm.
But we lived there with our grandmother, who just kind of kept the house together, as my mother taught off in rural Georgia, and my aunt, who would come in like a surrogate parent. She would come in and out. All of them provided us distinct things that made us who we are. And I think through the neighborhood, there were people who had much more than we did. But I think we fared all the better. We were not supposed to come out like we did. My oldest brother just retired as a university professor at UConn. Second oldest brother is a congressman in Georgia. My sister retired as an awesome educator. My twin retired from Bell South, and I'm still going.
Yeah.
as a business owner and everything else. That wasn't supposed to happen. One of us should have been a sociopath, locked up, the black sheep of the family that nobody talked about, but it didn't happen.
Happen. I wonder if that is the influence of Miss Mattie and her strong conviction about you will be educated, you will go to school. She was really, really strong on education.
Oh yeah, she into some other things she was strong on too, but it does not. I can't discuss on the show. But we were all the better for it.
Yes.
It is. It was a strong. She was a very. I call her my street fighter. I lovingly call her my street fighter because, and I say that because street fighters are ends oriented. All they care about is the other person dropping or that their mission gets accomplished, and that's all my mother cared about.
Yeah.
My grandmother played a part because I mean she kept us together. She was our strong love influence. She was just a wonderful person, and our aunt helped us to think. She was a possibility thinker. She was the stylish one of the group, and all of that just kind of blended nicely together to get 5 people that are pretty decent in our society.
Well, and I want our audience to be thinking about their past, their journey, the influences that various people might have had on them, whether it was family or a coworker or a friend or a neighbor, and how did that impact who they are today? And just kind of get present with that and understand that and think about, well, gee, what a difference I could make on someone else.
That's
And
right.
the impact that I can have on others, how I make them feel,
Right.
and almost living kind of a legacy around that. What are your thoughts on that, living a legacy, similar to the way that you see your mother lived a legacy?
Well, you know what? That's important to me because when I grew up, I looked like my grandfather. I tell everybody he was an incredibly handsome man. And so
I think you look like your mother.
yeah, I do. But I heard about him all of my life. He died 2 years before I was born. And I spoke at in the Georgia House of Representatives. My brother Mickey had me come speak. And there was somebody there who's old enough that remembers my grandfather. And here he was talking about my grandfather. This was only 5, 6 years ago.
Yes.
And so leaving a legacy is important to me. And so I'm rather painstaking with the people that are in my family that I interface with, my children, my grandchildren. I want them talking about me, not because I was just a happy guy, but I left stuff of substance with them, stuff that they could build their families with. And so that's very important to me that my great grandchildren are talking about great granddaddy Rufus, like I'm talking about my granddaddy.
And I think that that's ironic because here you are writing a book about the lessons that you learned from Miss Mattie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to you that you carry on a legacy of things learned from
That's right.
Rufus. And I love that. There's a real connection there for me on that.
Yeah, awesome.
Couple more questions. I'm curious, this is more from an author's standpoint, because you're writing about something personal, you're writing about your experience growing up, and I'm wondering how your siblings, thought about the book or how they responded to your book.
Well, you know what? It resonated with them because they remembered. In fact, when you're in a house, when you've got 5 kids, each of the kids hears something that the other one
That's what I'm thinking.
never heard. And you and I were talking about that with your brother, yeah. And it's interesting as we talk through those things, we laugh about them. They remember that. They remember the impact of all this triad of women who impacted us. And so yeah, it resonates with them, and we all laugh about it.
Well, when we're helping people understand their 10-year-old self, we always have them do some personal reflection. And if they have a hard time figuring it out, we're remembering, we have them ask their siblings. It's interesting because a lot of my stories in my book, my brothers, I have 3 brothers, they just don't remember it. Like, I don't remember that, or that's not how I saw the way Dad was. I'm like, oh, maybe he was different to me than he was to you. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's all about perspective in some ways.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
I want you to tell your 10-year-old story, because I was surprised when I came upon it in the book, and it just warmed my heart. And I'd like for you to share that.
Well, when I was in fifth grade, I was in my mother's class, and we lived with a farmer in the country in rural Georgia, and we'd go to school every day. I was in her class, and so this was near Christmas, and there was going to be one day when all the kids gave the teacher a gift. So I had been saving my little coins, and I had bought this little crystal powder holder. It had powder, and then the lid was actually a French poodle. And the thing could have cost $1,500, but I only paid probably $5 for it. But I had it for about 3 weeks, and every time I'd look at it, I'd say, "Oh my God, she's gonna love this. She's gonna love it." And so the one morning we were walking up, it was the day we were gonna give her the gifts, and she and I were walking to school, and at the top of the stairs, I tripped on this concrete stairs, and the bag fell out of my hand and hit the concrete, and I heard it shatter. And my heart broke. In fact, for a minute, I couldn't even breathe. And I just started sobbing like crazy. And she did what my mother did. She ran to my rescue, comforted me. We made it on to class. And when the kids did give the gifts later that day, she comforted me, and we got past it. But I'm telling you, right now, as I tell the story, few things have impacted me in my life like that did that day.
And what exactly would you say that impact did to you? Just the actual act of how you felt and how she responded.
Well, I bottomed out. I mean, I don't think I could have felt any worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember her. She didn't miss a beat. I mean, she was on it. It was like, my child's in distress. That can't be. And she came here and just swooped me up. I could still see all the pink glass all over the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked it up as much as we could, and she helped me on that day. But it just underscored the character of that woman. That stuff is going to happen in your life, but if I'm around, you're not going to be perpetually damaged. I'm going to help you get past. And that was her way.
Yeah.
Yep.
It made me also realize too, often it's when there is an emotional event or crisis, so to speak, that we remember, and from that comes a lesson.
Yeah. And that was the lesson for me, that that you can get past it, because I'm telling you, when it hit, and I can still hear it, what glass does.
Yes.
And it was, for a minute, I thought my life was over. And then we started collecting up. The day was a long day, because that was in the morning, and they weren't giving gifts away until in the afternoon. And so it was a long day but I got past it. And that's the lesson in it.
Yeah. Well, we're about time to wrap up. I wanted to make sure that we shared your contact information if anybody would like to reach out to you. And
Yes.
Also, I'm going to highly recommend the book, and you can get it on Amazon. We included Miss Mattie in our photos. I think it's a great Mother's Day gift. So I'm going to encourage it. From a mother and a grandmother reading it, it just really connected with what a difference we can make. And wouldn't it be nice if someone wrote a book about us someday, that we had that big of an impact, right?
Awesome.
So
awesome.
What would you say the best way to reach you or get in touch with you?
Well, you can reach me. My email address is here, or you can reach me by phone at 847-878-5421. Again, that's 847-878-5421. Or my email address was just on the screen,
Yeah.
Or my website address, raisingtheroof.com.
Yep, we brought it back up for them so they can take a note of that. So the one thing I want to say is I would recommend also not only that the book is a great gift for Mother's Day, but if anyone's interested in a motivational speaker that can really get the audience encouraged and inspired to live their best self, don't give up, and really kind of bring out some of these life lessons that we all can take and really resonate with and apply in our own lives, I would highly recommend you, Butch.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Krista.
thank
You know,
you.
I want to thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
All righty, sweetie. I'll talk to you later. Take
Right,
care. Bye-bye.
all right, bye-bye.
Yep. So I want everyone to know that you can hear any past shows, including this one, if you want to share it with someone. You can go ahead and go to the Krista Moore Show channel, and that's available in YouTube and also in GoToStage. So I encourage you to go out and listen, and you can just listen to the audio like a podcast and not have to watch the video. But we've got some great guests lined up for the month of May, and I have someone every Wednesday at 2 live, and I hope you can join us. We like to bring stories of inspiration and encouragement like we did with Rufus, but we want to make sure that you're focused on you, your health, your wellness, and your success. So until then, take care. See you soon. Thank you.